Hey, Truck Rides here from goHUNT.com. Today I have a couple of things I want to show you with these Stone Glacier backpacks. One of them, we often get asked, how does the load shelf work? All these X-Curve frames, the Evo frames, they all come equipped with a load shelf, which is essentially a shelf that goes between your bag and your frame. And what that allows you to do is detach the bag from the frame, load a load of meat or a quarter or something like that in between the bag and the frame. It's going to keep your bag out and away from your meat, keep your bag clean, also allow you to haul a load out of the backcountry. So that's one thing I want to show you. The other one I wanted to highlight is how these backpacks can be used in bivy mode. So this is a Sky 5900 backpack without the top lid. One of the things that I really appreciate and like about these Stone Glacier bags is the ability to collapse them like this on top and run in bivy mode without a top lid. I don't always run a top lid, I don't always need one. So this gives me the ability to really cinch that down. It makes a nice clean backpack. It's very easy to get into the top still, and it's well thought out. I really appreciate this bivy mode for a backpack. But basically what I'm going to do now is just show you how this load shelf works and how easy it is to get to your load shelf, and then how to secure a load in your backpack. We have some salt here, which I'm going to use to kind of demonstrate how that works. So you do have to undo some straps to get to your load shelf, but they do go pretty quick. And then once you get those undone, it's pretty easy and simple process to get everything secured and set back up. So first thing I'm going to do is just going to run down and undo all the straps. And you've got the 3 compression straps on the sides. I'm just going to go ahead and pop those. Loosen this one up here. And then you have your shoulder harness straps. These are your load lifter straps. Stone Glacier's actually thought this out quite well. Your load lifting straps are going to go to a new one right here, which will now become your load lifters that are actually attached already to the main frame. I'll kind of show you how that works, but then you're going to go ahead and undo these original load lifting straps. Once you got that undone, you're going to want to jump in between the bag and the frame. You're going to see right here you've got a connection point between the bag and the frame. What you're going to do is just loosen that and undo it, pull it all the way through. That's going to help you detach your bag from the frame. I'm going to do that on both sides. Okay. So you've got those undone. At this point, you're going to loosen the bottom straps. You got everything loose. The next step's really easy. You're just going to lift your pack up and off your frame. And again, you just make sure that all these side straps are loose. So at that point, you're basically at your load shelf, which you can see sitting right here between the frame and your bag. So for the purpose of this video, I'm going to completely detach the bag so I can show you exactly how the load shelf works and you get a good idea. Once you have your load shelf and everything set up, you have your load secure on the shelf, you can go ahead and attach your bag. But for the purpose of the video and showing you the load shelf, I'm going to kind of detach everything so you can see it. So at this point, you can see I've got the bag kind of detached from the frame so you can get a good look at the load shelf itself. You can see how that load shelf sits up against the frame. You've got a couple of straps here that hold it in nice and tight to your frame when your whole bag's connected. One thing that I really like about these Stone Glacier backpacks is how high this load shelf sits up off the base of the frame. So it sits up maybe 4 or 5 inches. Why that's really cool and important is that it actually helps you keep that load up and off your hips. Some other load shelves, they can get to sagging, they can get down low on your back, and it actually end up starting to pull on the front part of your hips. One thing I really appreciate about these backpacks is how high you can keep that load up off your hips, which keeps the load up your back. Doesn't sag. You don't get the pain and the issues that you might in your hips with some other packs. So I'm just going to show you how this load shelf works real quick. So you got a couple of options actually when you load your load shelf. You've got the regular straps that they come with that are tied into the frame here. And you can throw the load in this bucket right here. You can see that's formed, and you can cinch that down with these. What I actually like to do is undo these. And if you see, Stone Glacier has thought this out quite well, and they've included a couple of straps that actually run to the top of the frame. So what I like to do is actually undo these if you can. It depends on the load, obviously. But if you got a load that it'll work with, that's narrow enough and kind of fits the frame, you can actually undo that and tie these in to these upper pieces. What that helps you do is it helps you secure that load up against the frame, keeps it upright, so it's not going to sag and pull down. You know, these are great options if it, you know, the load works, but these are also really good if you need to keep that up and away from the frame. So what you're going to do, I just undo the load shelf typically, take the bag or the quarter or whatever it might be, and if you're talking boned out meat, you're going to throw that on your pack, take the load shelf, and like I said, at that point you can use these side straps that we just had, or if you can, I like these top straps, so I'm going to take those in, tie them in right here. All right, so you can see I've got that loaded on the load shelf. You can see how well that holds that load up off the lower portion of the frame. You know, that's important. I can't tell you how good this is keep that load up off your back and up off your hips. It works really, really well. At this point, you know, you could take your backpack, throw it on, use the side compression straps to cinch that down to you so that this load is not going to tip out one side or the other. These two vertical compression straps right here, those work great if you're hauling like a whole quarter. You got an elk quarter, if you can kind of picture it sitting here in the bottom. You've got the top portion of the leg bone kind of sticking up, and you can use these two to like really cinch it down. And so I'm just going to kind of show you how that load looks when you get it completely loaded up on the frame. You can see how that sits really well against the frame. Everything is secure and tight. At that point, like I said, you know, you can take these, which are now become your load lifter straps, which normally, you know, sit underneath the frame, and you know, your load lifters go to your backpack. They've thought about that. They've put these two tabs on the inside of the frame so that these now become your load lifters. You would just run those up and through, back down. That would secure your load. But I'm gonna actually just reattach the bag and kind of show you what the whole thing looks like so that you get an idea of what a load actually looks like between the bag and the bag on the frame. You're just going to go right up the side and do the buckles up. And like I said, you've got these top pieces now that you can use as your load lifters. You know, I could cinch this whole thing back down and tuck that back in bivvy mode, just like I had it the first time. You got your backpack all set up, you got all your gear in it, you've got your load secured between your bag and the frame. Last step, you're just going to take your load lifters and then attach them to these new pieces that are actually sit right up against the top of your frame. I kind of leave those loose until you get your load adjusted on your hips. So you have your everything kind of set back up. You got the load secured against your frame. You've got it up off your hips with the way that bucket sits, that load shelf against the frame. You've got everything kind of set up again and tightened down. Everything is in the place. I think the last thing we ought to do is just try it on and see how it works. You can get an idea on how that load rides on your back. One of the things I like about this pack is you'll see you've got a handle here. Basically works like a handle for throwing your backpack on. You're just going to grab that, obviously throw it on your back, use that hip belt to get a nice secure fit. Stone Glacier says these are rated up to 150 pounds plus. Just get that centered on your hips. Nice fit. And the next thing I like to do is take my shoulder straps, kind of get those right. And your load lifters, which now attach to your frame rather than the bag part. Just gonna kind of pull those tight. You don't want to pull them too tight that it pulls that whole frame up off your back, but you do want to have a nice combination between your hip belt and your load lifters and your shoulder straps. These shoulder straps are probably a little bit too high for me right now in my torso. I'd probably move those down a smidge, but not too bad. You can see there how you've got a load secured between your bag and your frame. You've got all your equipment in the main bag. You've got the load that sits between the bag and the frame. Like I said, one of the things that I really like about these Stone Glacier backpacks is how high you can get that load. I mean, that meat is just like dead weight. It sits in the bottom of that bucket, and you kind of want to keep that up off your hips if you can. It sure carries really, really well when you can do that. You don't get that bite in the front part of your hips like you do other times. Anyways, that's what that looks like. So just in conclusion, this is the Stone Glacier Sky 5900, but any of the X-Curve or the Evo frames will have this internal load shelf that will allow you to haul a load of meat or a load of gear between your bag and your frame. So I would say a load shelf is a must-have for any hardcore big game Western hunter. It's something I really appreciate about these Stone Glacier backpacks. If you have any questions about how this load shelf works or any questions about Stone Glacier packs in general, feel free to reach out to me or drop a comment below. I'd be happy to get back to you. We'd love it if you'd like and subscribe to our channel. Once again, this is the Stone Glacier Sky 5900 with the load shelf.